Welcome, everyone. We are so excited to have you join us today for the Sharsheret in the Kitchen, your anti-cancer morning routine, scientific nutrition made easy with Rachel Beller. I'm Jessica Jablon. I'm the director of Sharsheret's West region. For those of you who don't know about Sharsheret, we help women and families facing breast and ovarian cancer, as well as those who are at elevated genetic risk, through free, confidential, and personalized support and resources. In addition to our virtual services that can be found on our website or by emailing us, you can also access prior webinars on a range of cancer-related topics, as well as access our calendar of upcoming virtual programs through our website. And the link is going in the chat for that. Before we begin, a few housekeeping items. Today's webinar is being recorded and will be posted on Sharsheret's website along with a transcript. Participants' faces and names will not be in the recording as long as you remain muted. If you would like to remain private, you can turn off your video and rename yourself, or you can call into the webinar. Instructions are in the chat box now for both options. You may have noticed all participants were muted upon entry. Please keep yourself on mute throughout the call. If you have questions for Rachel, put them in the chat box, either publicly, or you can click on Sharsheret in the chat box to submit a private question, and we will ask them throughout the program. We will do our best to get as many answered as we can. We will also send out a follow-up email from today's webinar with the recording in the next week or so. As we move into the webinar itself, I also want to remind you that Sharsheret is a national not-for-profit cancer support and education organization and does not provide any medical advice or perform any medical procedures. The information provided by Sharsheret is not a substitute for medical advice or treatment for specific medical conditions. You should not use this information to diagnose or treat a health problem. If you have any questions that are specific to your medical care, Rachel may not be able to advise regarding specifics and would advise that you speak to your medical provider. Always seek the advice of your physician or qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. We are very excited for the first Sharsheret in the Kitchen of the year. Our goal is to empower those of us at risk for breast and ovarian cancer to make healthier diet choices. This webinar is a little bit different from our typical Sharsheret in the Kitchen programs because it isn't a cooking demo, but rather we look at ways in which we can eat healthier. Prior Sharsheret in the Kitchen webinars can be accessed on our website at the link in the chat. We want to thank our generous sponsors, the Cooperative Agreement 24-0061 of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, Gilead Oncology, and Pfizer, whose support allows us to create important educational programming like today's webinar. This morning, I'd like to share our Thriving Again kit with you. No matter when you were diagnosed, we offer resources and support to help you navigate your entire survivorship journey. Learn more about survivorship with our free survivorship kit, which contains nutrition, wellness, exercise, and healthy living resources. Each kit, which is only available in the United States, includes information on health and nutrition, an exercise stretch band, genetics, bone health, a healthy living cookbook, and psychosocial support as a breast or ovarian cancer survivor. To request your survivorship kit, complete the order form that's in the chat, and a member of our clinical team will contact you. Now, I would like to introduce you to Heather, who's going to be sharing her personal story with us.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name's Heather Mitchell. I was diagnosed with breast cancer in the summer of 2023. After my double mastectomy, reconstruction, and treatment that followed, I was really overwhelmed at what I should do for myself to heal and thrive as far as my diet and reach an optimal nutrition level. Enter the Sharsheret organization and Rachel Beller's masterclass last summer. The nutritional program has been nothing short of transformative for my health. It has been more than a collection of healthy recipes or meal plans. Rachel Beller's masterclass has been a lifeline, giving me tools to nourish my body after going through one of the hardest battles of my life. This program has helped me, since last summer, feel stronger, more energetic, and more confident in my cancer journey, and that I can help myself by feeding myself correctly. Every meal, class, and moment that was spent immersed in her plan and attending seminars and Zoom calls has reminded me that I do have a small bit of control over my healing process. I want to thank you, Sharsheret and Rachel Beller, for this masterclass and anyone who has facilitated this program. Your expertise and your compassion and understanding of the cancer journey has made a huge difference in my life. You empowered me with knowledge, which is so important, and support as I rebuild my body and my life. I just want to know that you know that Rachel Beller's class was not only instructional, but super supportive. I learned also from my fellow warriors that were on part of the group chats. And with the masterclass's easy to follow plan, I've been able to eat for success with things like her power souping, which was awesome, fiber boosting, and optimal protein for success. This is such a community that uplifts and supports each other. And you've all touched my heart along with many others. And with programs like this Rachel Beller's Masterclass that everyone should do, Cancer Warriors, we will all continue to heal, thrive, and look to a bright future with each other. I thank you so much for allowing me to speak on this. So important.
Thank you, Heather. Thank you for sharing your story and for sharing how Sharsheret and Rachel have helped you as you have been navigating this journey. I do want to mention that our Sharsheret in the Kitchen nutrition coaching program has not reopened yet, but we will be continuing it later this year, so stay tuned. We have been fortunate to hear from Rachel Beller on several Sharsheret in the Kitchen programs, and we know there are always a lot of questions around healthy nutrition, and we knew we just had to bring Rachel back for another educational webinar. So I'm very excited to introduce Rachel. She is the CEO and founder of the Beller Nutritional Institute. Rachel is a registered dietitian nutritionist, a 4-time best-selling author, creator of an award-winning line of Spice Synergy nutrition blends, and the Beller Nutrition Masterclass for weight management and breast cancer risk reduction. She is the media expert for Good Morning America and a spokesperson for the American Cancer Society. Rachel has researched the role of nutrition in breast cancer risk reduction at leading research hospitals and in her signature online program. The Beller Nutrition Masterclass is a simple all-in-one plan for weight management and cancer risk reduction using the Beller method. Her latest best-selling book, Spice Rack, a spicy action plan with recipes to reduce breast cancer risk and manage your weight, is available now. To learn more about Rachel's masterclass, please visit bellernutrition.com. And also, please stay tuned to the end of the webinar as we are excited to give away one copy of Rachel's latest book, Spice Rack, with one of her best-selling Power Spice nutrition blends that she's generously donated to one lucky person who fills out today's evaluation. Rachel, welcome back to Sharsheret in the Kitchen. We're really excited to have you back today.
Oh, it's such a pleasure to be here, and I'm gonna dive right into the presentation. So everybody can see my screen okay? Great.
Yes.
Appreciate that always. So yes, for the sake of time, I'm going to dive right into what I'm really excited to talk about today, which is your anti-cancer AM routine. But before I get into all the details, I do want to mention the number one mistake that I find that most people make when they embark on a nutrition journey. And that is that they start at the leaves instead of at the roots. And I'm going to explain this to you. So when I'm referring to the leaves right here, which is something that is so easy for us to get distracted by, different colors, movements, the leaves are basically the supplemental upgrades that we refer to as in the nutrition space. And when somebody comes to me, and I'd say 9 out of 10 patients come to me starting at the leaves, which is where I will push back and say, hold on. We are going to do this right. We're going to start at the roots, and I'm going to explain that to you. So when I'm referring to the roots, I'm referring to your anti-cancer AM routine. That is the must happen. That is the place that we need to start. A lot of people will say, well, I eat pretty well, and I do this, and I shop at Air One and Whole Foods, and I'm doing it. I've got it. We are going to start at the roots no matter what. And I insist on that. So the AM routine, we're looking at a quantity of fiber. We're looking at diversity of fiber, spice synergy. Of course, protein's important. But we are going to be reviewing things that most people do not get. And I'll explain that. After we get level 1 done, we move on to level 2, and that's your lunch and dinner 4-step blueprint, an easy strategy that tells you how to prioritize, how to put your meals together with ease. After level 2, we move on to level 3, and that's snacks with nutritional synergy for optimal energy balance. And also something to think about is that snacks, for many individuals, oncology patients specifically, it's a golden opportunity to fill in a nutritional gap, be it protein or whatever it is. And then after level 3, we move on to level 4, which is power tonics, hydration with intention, because how we hydrate ourselves throughout the day, it is such an opportunity to add more cancer-fighting goodness to our day collectively. A huge missed opportunity. So once we get these 4 levels down, we don't move on to the leaves quite yet. The leaves, again, just to remind you, those are things like a rooibos matcha or a ceremonial grade green matcha or a prebiotic fiber powder. There are so many incredible things, but before we get there, we need to test levels 1 to 4 to see that we can autopilot that routine, because we're in it for now and for life. So we want to explore, can we take it on the go? Can we take it on an airplane? Can we take it to a function? Can we take it on vacation? And we try that on. And once we get that down, then we know you're ready. And it takes time. It could take somebody months. It could take somebody a year. We don't know, but we need to start at the roots. So that's what I'm going to do with you guys today. Of course, I'd love to go through all the levels with you in full detail, but time doesn't permit for that. We're going to start in doing it right. We're going to start with your anti-cancer morning routine. And the first topic that I'm going to cover is the importance of fiber, quantity, and diversity. So here's a typical scenario, right? We're looking at a quantity for a day. Generally speaking, our goal is to gradually get to 30 to 35 plus grams of fiber per day. That's what research tells us collectively that is best for thrivership, to prevent recurrence and to really reduce risk of breast, ovarian cancer, multiple cancers. Okay. Now, what's interesting is despite nearly every American knowing this, only 3% are getting enough fiber. 3%, 97% are getting more protein than they'll ever need. This is what's lacking. This is why I'm highlighting this. So here's an example of somebody who has like some scrambled eggs, veg loaded with some whole wheat bread, some fruit for dessert, huge salad for lunch with a turkey burger, veggies for dinner. This individual, which looks like they're eating a lot of produce, right? They are, is falling 17 grams short. I'm not sharing this to discourage you. I'm sharing this to encourage you to pursue a strategy that's simple so that you know that you've got it. And it should be very simple. 5 reasons I recommend fiber diversifications to my patients. Number 1, it supports weight management goals, whether it's weight stabilization, weight losing excess body weight, even if you need to gain weight healthfully, it's important. It reduces excess hormones such as estrogen, cholesterol, carcinogens that are lurking around. It promotes a healthy gut microbiome, supports blood sugar modulation, and also supports our immunity. I'll unpack this a little bit. But all in all, what I want you to envision in your mind, what I want you to think about when you think about fiber and fiber diversity, is I want you to think about this incredible cleaning crew that comes into your body with brushes and scrubbing things and great cleaning materials to clean your insides. This is what we call natural detox, the detox that you definitely can now pick up at the health food store in the nutrition aisle. So I'm not going to unpack all of those benefits, but one of them that's very important for both for hormonally related cancers, whether it be ER positive, ER negative, ovarian cancer. This applies to everyone for different reasons. But fiber does remove excess hormones. Cholesterol is a hormone that's now been shown to have a negative impact when it comes to ER positive and ER negative cancer, breast cancer specifically. excess estrogen, potential carcinogens that are lurking around. Remember that scrubby brush here. So it loves to, the fibers will scrub, and then the soluble fiber will act like a sponge. It has an affinity. It grabs onto these excess hormones and potential carcinogens, and it excretes it out of the body. If you're getting the right amounts, that's what is important here. And you're diversifying, which is where supplements alone won't work. When we don't get enough fiber, all of these hormones and some of these hormones and potential carcinogens, what they do is they basically recycle themselves back into the blood system, which is something that we don't want. Now, I'm emphasizing quantity, but I am also emphasizing diversity. There are different types of fibers, and it's important that we diversify. There's insoluble fibers, there's soluble fibers. Within the soluble fibers, there are these special prebiotic fibers you've been hearing about, and then there's these super duper prebiotic fibers known as beta glucans that are very supportive as well, and I'll touch up on that. So prebiotic fibers, why are they so incredible? And I'm talking about whole food based specifically right now. And you could see some examples here at the bottom of my screen. What's great about them is that they have direct access into our gut microbiome, where there's a beautiful garden that should be lush and growing and everyone's happy, right? It feeds the good bacteria in our gut. When these fibers do that, we create what's called postbiotic, which are short-chain fatty acids. And those in turn support and enhance our immunity. They support weight management. They reduce cancer risk. They reduce body inflammation. All good stuff, all from food, all so simple. Fiber supports our immunity, another great reason to recommend it. And I would have never dreamt of this years ago when I started my career. What's great is that these beta glucans, these special fermentable fibers that you find in foods like mushrooms and oats and nori and intact whole grains, they, number one, act as these prebiotics that feed the good bacteria in our gut, which we just saw on the previous slide. And they also interact with our immune cells in our GI tract to stimulate our immune defense. It supports our immunity. This is amazing, just amazing. So what are you going to do today? I mean, that's my bottom line. How do I bring you to the table? How do I inspire you to take action? How do we get going with this? One little tip I'll give my patients, depending on whether they're intermittent fasting or not, but 10 grams of fiber, diverse sources of fiber before 10 a.m. is a good goal. Sometimes we flex depending on how they want to do things. Maybe it's before noon, but I would say for sure 10 before 10 or noon is a good way to go. How do I start a masterclass participant on this journey? We don't start with intricate recipes and a lot of to-dos. We say, look, we're going to start with a sprouted rolled oat, right? And someone will say, well, why sprouted, Rachel? And then we hold office hours every week. Why, Rachel? Okay. Well, the sprouting enhances the bioavailability of the nutrients within. Remember those beta glucans that support our immunity? So sprouted oats now are so available. You can find them anywhere, super inexpensive, comparable to, we've done comparisons. Sometimes they're on sale. They're actually cheaper than the regular organic. And so you start with that. But the thing is, we want to think about the fact that we are trying to get to about 10 grams of fiber in the AM. And we're also thinking about our blood sugars being modulated, because that's also very, very important when it comes to cancer risk reduction. So we start with 4 fiber boosters, right? And we decide, hey, let's pick 1, maybe 2. Don't buy all 4. I'm begging you not to complicate things. Pick 1 or 2 that speak to you. It might be basil seeds. They have 7 grams of fiber. They do have some omega-3s and other vitamins and minerals. It might be a white organic chia seed that has 5 grams of fiber, but it has more omega-3s. Or it might be a sprouted, ground, vacuum-sealed flax that has phytoestrogens, lignans, very protective, and omega-3s and fiber. Or it might be a whole hemp that's super, super crunchy. It has protein and fiber, unlike the hemp hearts, which are really more of a protein boost. But you're just going to look at this and say, I'm going to pick one and I'm going to let it ride for a week. And I'm going to add a tablespoon to my oatmeal. And that will bring me very close to the 10 grams, which is amazing. Easy. Start with one. Once you have one or two of those on rotation, then you can start looking at a supplemental type of fiber. Maybe you want to add a prebiotic fiber to that mix. Maybe you want to add an oat fiber, which is an insoluble fiber that doesn't have any calories. It's the outer part of the oat that usually gets thrown away. There's room to do these things, but I'm begging you, give yourself time. Don't dive all in. And when you're ready, select one or two of those fiber boosters that I showed you and make yourself an all-in-one mix that's ready to go at any time that is simple and easy for your AM routine. So an example here that I'm showing you could be, take a mason jar, add a quarter of a cup of chia or ground sprouted flax, and then add a quarter of a cup of an oat fiber. And you can add a spice blend if you want, shake it up, keep it on the counter. It's good for months, all in one. So that's your next step. First, start with one, see how your body reacts, give it time, your AM routine, then add another one, then figure out which are your 2 favorites, 3 favorites, put them in one jar, let it ride for 3 months. And then after 3 months, you can say, okay, you know what? I'm going to try this combo next. And that's the beauty of diversification. And no company is going to make this for you at the quality that you can do. And it's more cost efficient. Now I'm going to shift gear to the second tier of your AM anti-cancer routine, which is Spice Synergy. For those of you who don't know, I am all about spicing. I was intrigued by an article from the American Institute for Cancer Research titled The Spices of Cancer Protection. I looked into and noticed there were thousands and thousands of studies on spices. And I thought to myself, wow, this is simple. This is already in people's pantries. We don't need to go into gimmicks or trends. This is something they already have, yet it's so powerful. So I'm going to share 5 reasons I recommend for my patients and my masterclass participants to use Spice Synergy. Anti-inflammatory, it's such an instant boost of anti-inflammatory and antioxidant properties. It tastes delicious. It's rich in cancer-fighting phytochemicals. It supports weight management, supports our gut microbiome, and it is, and this is probably the most important part, it is sustainable. You can form a habit with spicing. This study here was fascinating to me. This was a game changer. This was a straightforward analysis of 3,100 different foods using something called a FRAP assay, where they analyzed the antioxidant value in different foods, berries, you could see here kale, and then there was spices, and spices like clove and allspice, cinnamon, oregano were off the charts, which means that a little bit can go a long way in boosting the antioxidant, anti-inflammatory properties of our meals. I won't get into the weeds of all these studies, but this is an interesting study that looked at reducing body inflammation with a group that was given a combination, a half a teaspoon of rosemary, ginger, turmeric, and clove. It showed a significant impact when it came to reducing inflammation. There was another study that looked at the gut microbiome out of UCLA, and it showed that with spices, you were able to establish a dual effect in enhancing the good bacteria in our gut while reducing the bad bacteria. Again, spices, you already have this in your pantries. Through my research, I did find interesting information about the power of spice synergy. And I thought, well, this is incredible. How you combine and pair certain spices, it's not just a flavor thing. It also enhances the absorption of the active compound. So why not get more? So I'm just gonna, there's so many different examples, and but these are just examples of different pairings. And you definitely, I want to say that you don't, I happen to create a shortcut for my patients and for people, but you definitely don't need to get mine. You can look at different brands, see how they're synergistically pairing their spices, and you can also make your own blends, however you want to do it. This here is one of many examples that I have. So I'm going to share a meal transformation. Here you've got some rolled oats with some plant-based milk. This happens to be a soy milk. The antioxidant value based on that study that used the FRAP assay, it came out, it clocked in at about 136, the antioxidant value. By adding a heaping teaspoon of my golden breakfast blend, the reason I say mine is because I have the data behind my blends, my combinations and percentages. I was able to evaluate what the add-on was. And so by adding the spice, you climbed from 136 to about 1,292. Again, simple stuff. And you can do this with any combinations that you desire. And it's so easy to sneak spice synergy into everyday foods. So some of the things that I recommend is to stir a blend into a yogurt, for example, or your oatmeal. Or you can even buy store-bought nut butter and stir in a combination of organic Ceylon cinnamon, granulated orange peel, ginger. There's so many different spices that you can add in there. Coffee, which I'll talk about, your avocado toast, your scrambles in the morning. There are tons of opportunities to add anti-cancer, anti-inflammatory properties to just about any meal or even a store-bought food. Keep it simple. The last category that I'm going to talk about here as far as your AM routine is hydration with intention. Again, I'm all about the opportunity through what we drink throughout the day. So I'll give you just a few examples. We've got so many different power tonics. There's definitely something for everyone. This is a de-bloat anti-cancer. I'd say more it's a post-meal kind of power tonic. And the reason I highlight that is because it uses black cumin seeds, and black cumin seeds are incredible. They're not the cumin seeds that you have in your pantry. These are black cumin seeds, very different. And they're great. You could see them right here. They're black. They're great because they promote digestion. They also help us de-bloat a little bit, really soothing, but also rich in anti-inflammatory properties. And when you make it into a tea, it's very mild. You can also add fennel seeds, which also help if you have a lot of gas buildup and discomfort. So that helps. I like to sometimes add a spice blend. So Ceylon cinnamon, granulated orange peel, ginger, which also has digestive aid properties. And then sometimes I'll throw a handful of parsley into a tea if I'm making a big batch, because it's rich in apigenin, which is very protective, but also it supports reducing some of that bloat and discomfort that we get sometimes after a meal. So you could choose any of these things, but just something that is helpful. Even coffee. Coffee is rich in antioxidants, but coffee can also get upgraded. So right here, we have what we call in our program, the Coffee 2.0. I specifically chose a combination of Ceylon cinnamon, ginger, and granulated orange peel, but the ginger and cinnamon contain compounds that enhance the absorption of the antioxidants that are present in coffee during digestion. So that's kind of fun. It tastes good. You're going to get more out of your morning coffee, and that's something that people enjoy as well. And then there's a golden matcha 2.0. Matcha is very, very trendy. It's a keeper as far as I'm concerned. It's not something that's going to come and go. There's so much data to support the positive impact of EGCG that comes from matcha, from green tea. It is a very powerful antioxidant. And what's interesting is that when you add cacao and turmeric to matcha, there's a synergistic action. So cacao has something called quercetin, which enhances the absorption of the active compound in turmeric, known as curcumin. And then also quercetin also enhances the absorption of EGCG, which is the powerful antioxidant in green tea. So that's your AM routine in a nutshell, but I'm going to elaborate a little bit more because I do want to get practical and give you some examples so you can take action even today. So I threw this in here last night because no matter what we do, the protein is going to come up. And people always say, well, if we're focusing on fiber, what about protein? Like, can I have both? And the answer is yes. Of course you can have both. Let me show you some examples of how you can have both. What we have here, again, we have the 2-egg scramble with some whole wheat bread, 18 grams of protein, 5 grams of fiber. We've got an overnight oats here, 14 grams of fiber, 20 grams of protein. Let's explore some of these. I also want to say that every example I'm going to give you, my team did the math. We're looking at $3 or less, which is also a huge bonus and something to consider. So what we have here, which is very popular, I should say, on my program, is these fiber breakfast cookies. You could take one as a snack in the afternoon or 2 for breakfast, and they're basically made out of sprouted rolled oats, a greenish banana or a ripe banana. We could talk about those differences, a scoop of the fiber booster, and a protein powder. I prefer single ingredient protein powders, and I'm going to give you a pro tip here in a second. And then Spice Synergy, which is also included, and we have a power tonic. Simple and easy. I make a batch of these. It probably takes me 4 minutes to the hardest part is just mashing the bananas. I use a potato masher. I add the oats. I add the scoop of the powder, a scoop of the other powder, and the spice. I just sprinkle and then mix it up and put it on parchment-lined paper. And you just literally put these blobs on and you bake it and you're done. Now, people always ask me about protein powders. And I firmly believe less is more when it comes to our nutrition, especially our protein powders. To me, it's a red flag when a company has a protein powder that has like a gazillion ingredients that they're trying to show off that they've added every green vegetable and beet and whatever it is. Forget it. What I like to do is a 2-to-1 combo of an almond protein powder, single ingredient, nothing more, with pumpkin protein. And the reason I combine these two is because that gives you all 9 amino acids. It's a very neutral taste. So that's the gift in working with thousands of patients across the globe, is that you get feedback like, hey, how did that taste? And then we take note of all that stuff. And this is the most neutral, non-chalky combination that we found. No company will put this together for you. They're going to throw everything in there to prove a point that they are selling you a lot of stuff, but stuff that you don't need. The meal math on this, 13 grams of fiber, 17 grams of protein, looking pretty good. If you want something savory, you can make a tofu fiesta scramble. You make 1 batch, it's good for the entire week. 12 grams of fiber, 22 grams of protein. 2 scrambled eggs has 14 grams of protein. Sorry about that. And again, you just make a batch. Spiced overnight oats, another easy one. You can make a few for the entire week. A lot of my patients take this to treatment. Sprouted oats, soy milk for an added boost of protein, fiber boost blend or a single fiber booster, some fruit, Spice Synergy, 14 grams of fiber, 20 grams of protein. You can have it chilled or hot. Last but not least, intact grains. You can make a batch of grains for the week. You can use jazzberry rice, black rice, a quinoa, any intact grain. And then you can just, like you would make a veggie scramble, just Add some veggies in a pan with a little avocado oil. Add a fiber booster. Add some nutritional yeast for a boost of protein and beta glucans, good for your immunity. And add a spice blend, Vegetrude Power. You can make your own. 14 grams of protein, 12 grams of fiber. People always ask me about how to buy bread. What's the best bread? So I figured I would throw it in here. So what I like to do is tell people when they're shopping for bread is to give it a squeeze test. If it's very squishy, like a pillow, put it back, because most likely that means it has flour. It could be whole grain, it could be a 1,000 grain, it doesn't make a difference. Once it's pulverized into a flour, your body's going to convert it into sugar rather quickly. We want to take our time with our food. We want our body to work harder to break it down, because that lends to steady blood sugars as well and more sustainable energy. So right here, we have a bread that's 100% flourless, zero flour. It's just a bunch of intact grains and legumes that are squished together to be shaped like a bread. And I do have to say that it does taste better toasted. The English muffins are incredible. If I were going to give you a little budget tip, I would say anybody who has Trader Joe's, buy them. It is such a better value than buying it anywhere else. And yeah, so if you have these intact grains squished together with zero flour, your body has to go through this internal workout to break through the barriers of those grains. And that's a workout. So you could think of it as like taking the stairs of the elevator to get to the 10th floor. Both will get you there. One gives you a workout. One yields a return for your health, while the other one doesn't do much. So in summary, I want to remind you that it's important to start at the roots. To achieve nutrition mastery, you want an evergreen approach. You want to start at level 1, which is the anti-cancer morning routine. Level 2 is the daily meal blueprint. You should know that. You should know how to take that to go with you like the back of your hand. Then your snacks, then your power tonics. Then you practice that before you go and upgrade. And I added something else here that I thought would be relatable, because a lot of my patients seem to take to this analogy. So your goal ultimately, if you think about this, is to have a repeatable system you can use and reuse. Kind of like that great outfit. We all usually have one of these outfits. It's like a go-to, you can call it like your go-to black dress, right? And you can use and reuse it. For example, if somebody's inviting you to a luncheon, you might put on a cardigan, but you've got that basic foundation. If they're inviting you to cocktails at dinner, you might put on, you may not put on a jacket or anything. You might just, put on a different pair of shoes, but that outfit is there structurally. It's your go-to. But I do want to remind you that we start with our undergarments. We don't show up to an event with earrings completely naked. They might be the most beautiful earrings. You need to get dressed. And that's how I want you to think about your nutrition. Start with the garments, put on that outfit, get it together. Maybe you need some help to have somebody put it together for you, but it's dependable and it's reusable. And I totally understand the rabbit hole. I get the scrolling. And, when my father was diagnosed with cancer, we attended lectures and they were great. Don't get me wrong, they were great. And we learned some tips and got some information. But you know what I found? You're on this high because you got some great tips. And then within 48 hours, you're back in the same spot. It doesn't yield the results. It's the same old place. And then the same thing with nutrition programs. They're like screaming at you with like, you're going to get 1,000 recipes and meal plans and all these things. And you know what? You freeze. You're not taking action because it's overwhelming. And we just find that it's just not working. What you need is that dependable system. And another mistake that people seem to make is that they find that they need to be ready. I was talking to a bunch of oncologists about this, and I'd say a few years back, we would say, "Oh, let's wait till after treatment. Let's wait. The patient needs to be ready." And what I'm finding is we don't need to be ready. We have a bridge that gets built. All you have to do is walk on the bridge. You don't need to be ready. Just need to start walking, because if we start to integrate things, and it could be something so simple, like maybe you're upgrading your oats, maybe you're upgrading a plant-based milk that you've incorporated, maybe you're being more inclusive just a little bit with some protective plant-based proteins, like you're trying something new that you're picked up at the store. That's a lot. You don't need to be ready for that. So I just want to say that it's really just about feeling the power and the joy that nutrition gives you, because it's not about a program. I could tell you our program isn't about all the recipes and everything. They're great, but it's really about hanging out with us, being in office hours, talking to you, understanding and empowering you. And that's what it's about, feeling good with that. I really want to thank you for allowing me to have this opportunity to share something I'm passionate about. If you want some of the recipes and everything that were presented, you can go to bellernutrition.com/masterclass, and we have that available for you as well. And if you have any questions, just email us. We're here. And we try to keep this as affordable as possible, at just $3 a day. And you can quit anytime. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rachel. This is great. There are a lot of questions that came in.
Well,
a lot of questions.
Sure.
I'll start off with the first one. Is fiber important to triple negative breast cancer in the same way?
Yes. It's I don't know if I'd call it 100% in the same way, but it is very important, because what I was mentioning about not just the quantity of fiber, but the diversification and that cleaning crew, it's not just about removing excess hormones out of the body. It's also about removing potential carcinogens out of the body, and cholesterol, which is something that you're going to be hearing more and more about when it comes to cancer risk reduction, and the saturated fats and where we're getting those from.
Somebody asked about fiber supplements and whether or not they are effective.
Sure. So there's fiber supplements that come in mainly two different forms: pill form and powder form. Okay. So the pill form, unfortunately, if you look at the serving size, you'd have to pop so many pills, because they're just taking the powder and they're putting them in these pills. When it comes to the fiber supplements, like a prebiotic fiber and oat fiber, and I do recommend them throughout my program as well, that is definitely not something one would start with, because they're isolates and they are like the insurance. First, you need the foundation. It's the leaves. So you want to start at the roots, and wholesome foods come with natural fibers that are glued to other important cancer protective nutrients. So you can add a fiber supplement if you already have 30 to 35 grams of wholesome fiber coming from natural foods. It's kind of like, it's kind of like people ask a turmeric supplement versus whole root or spice. They are so different, not even comparable.
Thank you. And just as a reminder, before you do anything like with supplements, you should talk to your doctor about that first, for all of the things that we're discussing today. Someone asked about concerns regarding morning oatmeal. She said, and insulin intolerance. She said she's had previous providers deter her from oatmeal because it's basically sugar.
Okay. So it depends on the types of oats. We have steel cut oats, rolled oats, then there's other varieties that are more pressed and ready. So the steel cut is going to be like number one when it comes to blood sugar modulation, and then the rolled oats. However, I do have to say that it's kind of like, I don't want to say a lazy answer, but there's something about nutritional synergy that's important. And we can't look at a food like oats on their own. We have to look at the amount, and then we need to think about how we pair it. So if you're going to add a fiber booster, for example, to a third of a cup of oats, that is like, here's a car with a built-in set of brakes. They're very different. So you need to know how to put that together. Then maybe, we're looking at, let's say you're going to add a Cinepil spicer or some kind of a Ceylon cinnamon to it. That could also help modulate blood sugars potentially. Then we're looking at maybe you're going to add a little bit of the single ingredient protein powder in there. That's further going to modulate your blood sugars. So it's kind of not fair to the oats to just kind of make a general statement like that. But it's easy. It's easy to do. And nutrition does take some insight. And that's where dietitians come in to actually laser focus on you and to really help you put that killer outfit together that we want you to reuse.
I love that. Soy, that is always a hot topic that we get. I saw there were a number of questions that came in during registration as well as I see in the chat today. Can you just touch on what you said to soy or not to soy?
Yes, to soy or not to soy. So all the research post 2009 is definitely on encouraging thrivers to include wholesome, not isolated, but whole soy into their diets. Because what we have found is that it's protective. So, and estrogen and hormones is a big topic, but plant estrogens are so different from natural occurring hormones. So without getting into the weeds, there are cells and there's different receptors on a cell. There's an alpha receptor and a beta receptor, okay? Normal circulating estrogen has an affinity to the alpha receptor, whereas when it comes in contact, it promotes growth. And that's not something we want, which is why we want to refrain from having a lot, adding that into our body or really to think about that particular aspect of it. Phytoestrogens, which are these plant estrogens that come from foods like soy, flax, lentils, berries. There are so many foods that are sesame seeds that are rich in these plant estrogens, right? They have an affinity to the beta receptor. When they arrive at the beta receptor, they act as a decoy and they send a signal to the alpha receptor saying, hey, I'm here, shut your door. And it's protecting you and not promoting growth. So it's good. So if you're going to say to soy or not to soy, I'm going to say yes to soy. Absolutely, for its protective mechanism. We can probably spend hours talking about this, and in the dietetics world, it's kind of fascinating. People won't think twice about, and I'm not saying you should not eat chicken, but they don't think twice about naturally occurring hormones from certain animal proteins, but they'll refrain from eating soy. So it's interesting, but I would say it's definitely protective. It's something that I encourage including, but in its pure wholesome. And then within soy, there are different categories. There's fermented soy, like tempeh, which also supports our gut microbiome, but it's incredible stuff.
There are so many questions that are coming in the chat, and I know we're not going to be able to get to everything today, so I know we're going to have Rachel back. But I do want to touch on one question that we got, I think, 4 or 5 times during registration, and that is just, can you touch upon intermittent fasting and just fasting in general?
Yeah, a lot of people ask about intermittent fasting, and I don't have an issue if someone wants to incorporate that. The issue really becomes when somebody is so hyper-focused on an 8-hour window of eating that they don't focus on what they're eating. So if you're opting to do that, don't treat your anti-cancer nutrition any differently. You still have 30 to 35 grams of fiber that you want to be including. You do want to think about how to select premium proteins, how to select premium fats, how to distribute your food, how to address weight management. You need to think about those things. Now, fasting, there has been research showing that 14 plus hours of fasting could be beneficial in reducing inflammation, supporting weight management, and reducing breast cancer risk specifically. I think we need more research to support that, but there's nothing wrong with giving your body some rest. I don't think it's a bad idea, and it also helps us achieve better rest and sleep when we have a cutoff time. Some people find that it's very, very restrictive for them. Psychologically, it's very restrictive, but there's no issue in doing that. You just need to pick the time frame that works for you. Most of my patients will do 9 to like 11, and that's a nice little 13-hour-ish. But yeah, there's no issue with it. The only thing sometimes is that they prefer to start with their lunch meal. So then I might change their schedule and I'll say, okay, fine, we'll start with like a brunch, meal builder there, take the fiber ensured anti-cancer AM routine, move it to the afternoon, and then dinner, and then we can figure out a snack. They might lose a snack that day, but it's fine. It's totally fine.
Thank you. And, of course, with all of these tips that Rachel has given us today, every person is different. So definitely make sure to talk to your healthcare provider before you make any changes to your diet. But we are just so grateful for you, Rachel, for being here and sharing your expertise with us. I know that I always learn a lot from you, and I'm sure everybody else here did as well. I love having concrete ways to improve our eating habits. We recommend that you follow Rachel on social media and check out her books. Links to all of that is going in the chat. We also want to thank Heather again for sharing her meaningful story and experience with us. Please take a moment to fill out a brief evaluation survey that is linked in the chat box now. As I mentioned, we are giving away 1 copy of Rachel's latest book and her spice blend that she generously donated. If you are interested, please fill out the evaluation to enter the giveaway. Evaluations really do inform our future programming. So thank you so much for taking a minute to fill it out. Please never forget that our social workers and genetic counselor are here for you and your loved ones. Sharsheret provides emotional support, mental health counseling, genetic counseling, and other programs designed to help you navigate through the cancer experience. All are free, completely private, one-on-one. Our phone number is 866-474-2774. And you can also email us at clinicalstaff@sharsheret.org. Finally, I want to share an exciting webinar that we have planned for next week. The Sarah Rudolph Olshan Creative Art Experience Paint With Me. Join us for an evening of healing and empowerment through your inner artist by painting with the wonderful Nikki, Sauce, and Mel. Although the deadline has passed to get a paint kit, you can still use your own art supplies like markers or colored pencils to create your own beautiful masterpiece. And the link for that is going into the chat. Please check out our website regularly to see what topics are coming up. The link for that is in the chat. And you can also access the recordings and transcripts of all of our past webinars on our website. And of course, like we said, the recording for this will be sent out in the next week or so to anyone who's registered, as well as it will live on our website. So from all of us at Sharsheret, thank you so much for joining us, and we hope to see you soon.